Good evening, everybody. Colin Livingston here for Talkin' Torque. Talkin', not talking torque. Great to be back here. It's been a week, 2 weeks since I did a live show. Always thankful when I hear that theme music from our friends at Cylinder. That song is called Fight On. You can still get all the Cylinder's music on Apple and all the streaming services. Let me see if I can get this out of the way properly so we can show that awesome picture in the background from our friends Cody Schindel from Canadian Karting News. That was one of my big wins this year in go-karts with during our summer challenge at EDKRA a couple weeks ago. That was a fun one to win. Been a busy couple of weeks. Starting back in Toronto, we won the Honda Indy in NASCAR Pinty Series with Alex as the driver. That was great. That was the second race for our new road course car, and I think we're safe to say we're finally starting to figure it out. We didn't get a lot of track time, didn't get a lot of testing on that car. Went from Toronto on the weekend, did some broadcasting duties for Crier Media that weekend. Got to spend some time with Chris Rook, Griff, and the guys from Down by Two, which was awesome. Want to thank the people that allowed me to interview them, starting with Rob Edwards. Unfortunately, I found out the other day that our interview, the audio just didn't line up. We got a lot of background noise, and we just couldn't make out the interview questions and answers. So my apologies to Mr. Rob Edwards from Andretti Autosport. Was a super thrill to be able to interview six-time champion, IndyCar champion Scott Dixon. Just a lovely guy. Always a lot of fun anytime we get to see him. Usually it's in a motorhome lot with him and Alex, and always get to hear a story from the olden days. And they're always smiling and laughing. Got to interview David Malukas, who had a really stellar Indy Lights career and is now doing some really good things with Dale Coyne Racing. David was just awesome, like really, really nice kid. Very thoughtful answers, was making lots of jokes before we started recording, and just kind of kept it going. Even got to interview Dale Coyne himself, which was also excellent. And for that, both of the Dale Coyne interviews, have to thank my friend Karina Redmond for lining them up. She kind of does, I don't know what you would call it, because within their small team, she kind of does everything from, team management to public relations to, wrangling the drivers to, booking hotels to everything else. Really thankful that she was able to help line that up. And then, of course, got to bump into our good buddy Larry Jackson, who had stuck around on the weekend. He had a display car out for one of his sponsors, and he he's always great for an interview. So we got to spend 5 or 10 minutes with Larry and do some behind the scenes. So that was 2 weekends ago. We carried on, flew back home Sunday night. I was back in my go-kart on Wednesday, managed to chalk up another win, which is great to finally get some success rolling in that thing after a lot of hard work. Then I try and get my chronology straight. We went from my kart race, spent Thursday and Friday doing PR for the Wetaskiwin NASCAR Pinty Series race. So, had Alex running around town from, Global TV to K97 with our good friend Pete Patipko. City TV did a hit here in my shop, and then we closed off with my good friend Min Dhariwal at CBC Radio. Hoping if we line this up again next year, we can get some of our other friends like Lachlan Cross, who's obviously a mainstay here on Crier Media. Just happened to catch Locke he was on vacation while we were trying to do our media run. But then we moved into the Wetaskiwin race, which the home race is always great. Getting to sleep in my own bed for a NASCAR race is kind of an interesting phenomenon. But we did well. I mean, we finished fifth. Moved on to Saskatoon for two races on Wednesday last week. Finished fourth and then second, which is fifth, fourth, second is if we could have been offered that before the Western Swing started, I think we probably would have taken it sight unseen. Did really well until you compare it to our teammate and current points leader Trayton Lapsevich, who finished Edmonton second, and then he won both of the Saskatoon races, so that put us a little bit further behind in the points. But now we're coming to a fairly favorable part of the season, the calendar for us. This weekend, we're going to be in Quebec for Grand Prix de Trois Rivieres, which is, we'll be flying out tomorrow. I'm still in Edmonton, but all the festivities start tomorrow. That's a track that's treated Alex very well over the years. 3 wins there in the Pinty Series, tons of podiums, and just naturally, lets us get up front. Then we've got the 2 races at Ohsweken, which, while we raced fairly well there last year, this year we're doing a double header, and I think people might get a bit more aggressive. So I'm going to call those 2 races question marks for us. Learned a lot. Alex did a lot of dirt racing through the year in a modified, which helped him get some feel and get some understanding of what those cars need versus what we need when we're on asphalt. But then we go to iCar, which is another street circuit or road circuit, depending, converted airport layout, and he's had success there. Back to Canadian Tire. For another track that we always just seem to do quite well at. And then we finish our season at Delaware. While we haven't had the best results at Delaware, we've started to run fairly well, and kind of feel like that track maybe owes us one. So that's going to be the finish of the season should treat us well. Getting back to the schedule, we finished racing at Saskatoon, drove straight back home Thursday, just over 6 hours from the hotel to my office. Spent a few hours, another hour out to the racetrack to load up my go-kart trailer, and then we spent Friday, Saturday, and a bit of Sunday down in Calgary at Calgary Kart Racing Club, CKRC, just outside of Calgary in Strathmore, Alberta, for their North 49 event. For the first time this year, I mean, I've had nights where I've been off or dealing with mechanical stuff, but we got down to Calgary, and for the first time this year, I was like nowhere in contention. I was still second overall in my class, but one of the locals, Alan Haggerty, was in he just wanted to try DD2, was in a rented cart and absolutely destroyed me. He was 1.5 seconds ahead of me. This is on, roughly, he turned a 52.7, I believe, and I turned a 54.3 or something like that. Like, it wasn't even close. That's an eternity, and that's not the kind of thing that I can make up just by making small setup corrections. I mean, that's all feel, and Alan's driven on that track since it opened. But once we finally got to the final, or the pre-final, and the final, started to close the gap a little bit. Whether he started to back up or I got a little bit quicker, it's tough to say. But in the race, he definitely didn't pull away. But I wasn't able to really challenge him either. But thanks to drivers having either mechanical issues, driving off the track, I was able to move. I think I started 9th and ended up finishing 4th. Alan had a mechanical issue that forced him to retire. I definitely didn't beat him, but at the end of the day, it's still another win. So that was great. My first win at a non-home track for me. captured a little bit of in-car video. This is one of my faster laps. This is going to be a 54:01, but when you get to watch this, it doesn't really translate in the video, but Calgary is really a fairly awesome track that there's lots of elevation. So as this video starts, we're climbing up a big hill, from the final corner up to turn one, kind of reminiscent of Circuit of the Americas in Austin, where you have this big climb. Now, where Coda in the States follows with a hairpin, the Calgary track is an off camber, super high speed off camber 90-degree corner. And then from there, you kind of go up and down and up and down through the whole track. But give you a little look at what we played with last week. Here you go. Oh, I always go back and watch these things, and all I can see is the mistakes. Definitely had a little bit of time in there. If I hadn't, again, maybe pushed a little bit harder, pushed a little bit deeper, got back to the throttle a little bit earlier. But all in all, great weekend. Compared to the last time I was down there for this event, ended up with a pretty bent up race car. Little bit of physical injury after I got run over. So this was a lot of fun being able to just run and hang out with mostly we had 14 carts, 13 of them were from Edmonton, so it was all the same guys that I race with week in and week out, which is it's just great. We've got a really good group that we call off camber carters, and to be able to hang out, to be able to race each other through the day, still go out, enjoy a couple of beverages, a meal, help each other out if there's an issue. It was just, couldn't be more grateful for the guys that I race with. And then we got back Sunday, actually spent most of this week working, and now getting ready to wrap things up and get in the air for GP3R this weekend. Supposed to have our friend Dominic Fugere joining us. I'm not too sure where Dominic is. I just sent him a note to see if he's still slated. If not, we'll go through a little bit of promo and maybe wrap this up a bit early. But this weekend for me is, as I've got Canada Day is a special weekend for me, and GP3R is kind of like my adult Christmas. The feel that we get, the response that the town gives us, and the caliber of fans that show up at the event are just second to none. They are passionate, they are friendly, they are knowledgeable, and they're always so excited. I wanted to share some of this once we got Dom on. If we need to, we can replay this. But the crowds in Three Rivers are just unmatched. I don't know what the total attendance is, but there will not be a free seat in any of the grandstands. These I've taken over the years. And then we move into the autograph sessions. So this is one of my favorites. Those are my kids. This is from boy, about 2015 with Parker and Jenna. They're a little bit bigger now. But once we get to the autograph session, I mean, there will be thousands of people, and they line up for a fair bit of time and will fight their way through. You can just see the sea of humanity, but they're all super excited. Uh, Again, just very, very passionate race fans. So it's always great to see. You know, no matter where you sit, there's great views. Whether you're in a grandstand, whether you get a general admission, there's TV monitors almost everywhere. This is probably the closest thing to an empty seat that you're going to see is those four seats. But this was taken on a Friday during, or pardon me, Saturday during morning practice. So the not even close to where the where we have like a lot of reason for people to be in the stands, but they just they're just everywhere. Just love it. And then the night, traditionally on Saturday night is the fireworks display, which I understand the fireworks are going to be, the fireworks have been replaced this year with, I want to get the wording quite correct, the largest public aeromusical flight of luminous drones in Canada. So there's going to be something like 400 or 500 drones, all coordinated, and they're all lit up, coordinated to music over the river, and just going to be. I mean, I know what kind of show these guys put on. The fireworks display is one of the the historic fireworks display is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like this, whether you know this or not, Quebec is home to some of the greatest fireworks companies in the world. They compete on the world stage, and these are the guys that that GP3R gets to put on the fireworks display. I know that the show that we're going to see on Saturday night is going to be second to none. Other than that, there's going to be, I think we've got 7 classes that are going to run this weekend. From the Canadian Sports Car Championship, the Nissan Sentra group will be there, which is the Micra and the Sentra. The Super Production Challenge, which are essentially street cars, will be running. Chevrolet Urban Challenge. These are the modifieds that they're going to throw on the track. We're going to see some crossover from either current or former Pinty Series drivers, guys like Marc-Antoine Cameron, Alex Labay, Raphael Lassard, Dexter Stacey are going to be running. And then really familiar name to Canadian motorsports fans, Ron Fellows is going to be joining that group. I'm looking at they have a version of a Legends car that's going to be running, where I see a lot of familiar faces from go-karts, and our old buddy Alex Gauthier is going to be running in that group. So I'm going to have to make sure that that I get over to see Alex. He's just one of the greater guys that's involved in racing. Once we get to the Pinty Series, 31 entries this weekend. There's going to be some, mostly familiar faces, some new faces that maybe most fans don't understand or aren't familiar with. But 31 cars, that's going to be interesting. It's going to make once we start catching the tail of the field, once the leaders start catching the tail of the field, it's going to make things really, really interesting. Just hearing from Dom now. Try and get him connected if possible. We'll see what's going on in his world here, but that'll always lead to a little bit of carnage. Hopefully, we can minimize that. We can show some great racing like we showed last year with Alex Gannett getting his first NASCAR Pinty Series win. He's not from Three Rivers. He's from Terrebonne, but that's about as close to a home track as he's going to have in our series, aside from iCar. Great to see him as it was, getting to race with, Cameron and Dumoulin and all those guys, hoping that we get to have a decent finish, which we, within our team for us to get back in the championship hunt. I mean, we need to start racking off some podiums and wins here to close the season. But that's racing is obviously very unpredictable. All you can do is prep to your best, and hope that things line up when you need it. But there's a lot of that stuff that's completely out of your control, that we won't know what we have until we get to race time. The pole lap hasn't really changed a lot over the last 5 years. Pole times are about the same. So, it comes down to the person who can manage their tires. I mean, we should be doing a pit stop for fuel at some point in the race. And then, you really need to manage your equipment. Our tires are going to be, they're going to be pushed pretty hard, that there won't be a lot left once we get to the end of the race. So if somebody's really aggressive, or you maybe have a situation in qualifying that puts you in the back, and you have to push a little bit harder than you want to get through traffic, you're not necessarily going to have a lot of tires left at the very end. You might be able to get to the front, but it's going to make passing and challenging for the lead tough. So the guys who can manage their stuff and keep their car underneath them, should have a better shot at the end. But you never know who's got what until that green flag flies. And some guys, we know who the drivers are, who tend to drive over their head, trying to push at 100% from the green flag. And I don't want to give away too many secrets, but that rarely works unless you have a perfect race car that, by the time you get to the middle of the race, your brakes are going to start going away and your tires are going to be gone. And then, all you're trying to do is just hang on. It's you need to be really smooth and really deliberate. Make sure that you don't, overheat your brakes to the point that they want to start fading. And, hopefully you have a shot at the end of the race, to make things work. Not really getting a lot back from Dom here, so I think what I'm going to end up doing is we're going to call this the night, and by next week we should have a pretty good recap of our time at GP3R, and hopefully we've got some positive stories to talk about, from the weekend.